Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Live! Welcome back, viewers. This evening, we are so honored and excited to have back, I believe this is episode the fifth time, we have the Rachel Fiori, spiritual leader, joining us from San Diego, California. Welcome back, Rachel Fiori.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody.
We have
Hey.
Steve Finn of the land from down under. He calls Australia home, where it's right now about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. He's always one day ahead, so he could see the future that we can't see yet. Welcome back, Ev. Welcome back to episode 138.
Oh, thanks for having me. As always, looking forward to diving deep with our sister tonight.
And of course, we have Josh Richer, J. Reedy, joining us from Southern California. Welcome back to Real Men, Real Talk Live tonight, Josh Richer.
Great to be here. Excited to dive into tonight's topic. Holy cow. We got a lot to unpack.
This evening, Jeff Fasano is off on assignment somewhere traveling in the U.S., doing his other passion in life, which is as a photographer. And so we miss you tonight, Jeff, but you will be back next week from what we understand. But tonight's episode is episode 138. We invited Rachel to join us this evening, and tonight's episode is all about the way of connection. And Rachel, since this is a topic that you suggested and we ran with in our production meeting with you on Monday evening, I'd like to invite you to kick us off, light us up, get us hot, and break down what does the way of connection mean to you, and why are you so passionate about us diving into this topic in tonight's episode.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the way of connection is one of the 20 universal ways of oneness. It's one of the ways of oneness, number 6 of 20. And that is an aspect of oneness consciousness. To truly understand the way of connection, we have to, number 1, understand what disconnection means, or what it means to connect in very unhealthy, toxic, dysfunctional ways, the ways that we've been taught to connect to other people in our world for thousands of years. We connect through our wounding, trauma bonding. We connect in codependency and unhealthy ways. We connect with a lack of equality, superiority, inferiority. We connect from loneliness. We connect from lust and superficiality. We don't connect from our divinity. And in order to connect to another human being, we have to learn what it means to connect to my divinity first and foremost. Otherwise, how dare I connect to another human being and offer them my wounding, my inner child, my programs, my ego, instead of offering them my divinity? We why businesses, relationships, romantic relationships, marriages go wrong, die out, get poisoned, is because the first thing we have to understand is we're not connecting in healthy ways. We're connecting from dysfunction. So we need to stop. We need to be willing to grow up, to elevate, to learn, to disconnect from everything and everyone. Reconnect to your own soul, your divinity, your unconditional love, your power. Your source of power is the divine you. And from that space only should we then learn how to connect to everybody else, because that means we are then offering our divinity, no longer offering them our dysfunction. That's what I want to dive into this evening with you, gentlemen.
That's an opener.
Boom.
I think we got ourselves a show here.
I'm just going to grab my pencil and notepad, and I'll just be here taking notes on tonight's show. This sounds fantastic.
love it. Love it.
Wow, Rachel. Thank you. That was beautiful. What struck me, I mean, the how dare we, right? Connect with our wounding and without connecting to ourselves first. But we've been taught in reverse.
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
Yes.
Connect with everybody and get your needs from out there
Yes.
before we ever can feel okay in here. And it's backwards.
It's backwards.
It is. And that's so beautiful. And I can't wait to, I can't wait to see, as we explore this tonight, ways of coming home to self and ways of, leaning into our own divinity and experiencing that fully so we can have like healthy, conscious connections and relationships that are fulfilling instead of taking away from us and causing stress, anguish, pain. So yeah, I'm super pumped to dive in tonight.
Beautiful.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, you say so many beautiful things there, sister. Going back not even too far long ago, you're talking about we've been leaning into this wounding for quite a long time, thousands of years, but only here in the land down under. And look, there's still communities within Australia and all around the world, First Nations people that still practice traditional ways and being able to connect. Obviously, one really important thing that we learned from, within the culture, hit really at the top of the values is obviously relationships. One of those things that I talked about actually in a video this morning, which I think it's important because as we go forward into this new earth and we go back to these traditional ways of understanding how to connect, not only with those people within our circle or our field, but most importantly with what we're actually living on, which is planet Earth. And when we were brought into the world, we had a beautiful kinship system, which allowed us to understand that that baby that was birthed, if it was a male, he would be, the baby son of blah blah. It would be the brother of blah. It would even be the uncle. It would even be the grandfather of blah blah. And it was vice versa for the female that was born into the world. So this was all intertwined beautifully into a connection called our skin groups. Now, this had no confusion then, because once you were old enough, you had the knowledge of how you would relate to other people and the place that you were in with nothing but utter respect. Now, fast forward, that's just a little bit of an opener on that particular skin group. You think of today's idea of connecting with people, it's been flipped on its head, man. Yeah. We're connecting here on social media. We call these social connections. They're social connections, but they actually have no deep, meaningful value connection behind them at all. We truly don't know each other behind these screens, brothers and sisters. Now, on the other beautiful connection that we had was with Source. It was with Mother Nature herself. We knew when we were birthed into this world, we as original people, we were only young, man. The land was already here. The sky was here. The universe brought us in. We were only young to it. But we walk around today with absolutely no respect for most of those things around us and the place that we're in. And what happens is that we lose respect for ourselves. We actually disconnect from ourselves. So we also knew that when we passed on, that our body actually becomes the nutrients of the environment itself. Your water, 80%, some say 70%. Your body is made of water. It goes down into the soil and is nourishment and actually goes into the animals, goes into the leaves, then goes into the precipitation of the rain. This is life, brothers and sisters. It is a life cycle. We were taught that everything is interconnected. It is the one. But what you're seeing in today's modern society, I really put that in hyphenated modern, is it's being flipped on its head because we're actually now connecting to things like our Wi-Fi, We've got to make sure that I'm connected to the latest app or the latest brand or whatever it may be, which is actually at ultimate point disconnected you from yourself. And so that's what I want to dive in deep tonight about.
Beautiful.
I guess my question is, how do you find your way home then? Because, part of what happens is that we're not even aware that we've become disconnected. I will share just one tip on what I really value is that when I want to speak to somebody today, let's say on the phone, I request a video chat. Because to me, just having the audio feels so separated. It feels so distant. And so it's really, for me, it's really one of my passions in life today is like, whether it be a friend, a family member, anybody in my life, I always consistently request a call via video today because it's such a more intimate way to connect with someone when we could see them in their eyes, see their expression. It's easy for somebody to hide behind just an audio. But I mean, I did this recently with an old friend that I hadn't been in touch with in a couple of decades. And I requested the video chat. And what was beautiful was that we were neighbors for like 10 years. And this video chat was the first time that I recall seeing him get emotional and literally tear up. If I was just on an audio call with him, we would not have had that deeper level of connection, the way of connection. And he teared up, I teared up, and it was absolutely beautiful. So that's just one way of how we can take our relationships to that next level of oneness. Is don't feel like you need to play safe, like just use the old, we got the technology. Why not use it? We have all these apps that we could do we could do a video chat with.
And also,
it's beautiful, Jay. Yeah. And you're my, real quick, Rachel, you're my only friend that does that, Jay. And I love it. It caught me off guard at first. I was like, oh, so how's my hair look? Is the house a mess? Jay's calling me right now on video. But I do. I love it. I love it, man. It's great. It's beautifully Jay Rothman. And it's a great way to connect. I've learned to appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, it feels, I get something out of it. And what I get out of it is that I was so disconnected in my life from myself. And part of the journey of coming home to myself is that when I do connect with someone outside of myself, besides that little boy within that I love to refer to today as little JJ, I want to see you. I want to feel you. I want to be able to understand you in a way that we can't do that if it's just an audio call. Rachel, what do you make of all that?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And I think one of the ways we need to elevate is to make sure that we understand the way of connection is an energetic infusion of to things, to people, to beings, to whatever, whether it's human and animal, whether it's friend to friend, whether it's somebody sitting next to a tree in order to meditate or contemplate something. It's the way of connection is energetic. So if we understand it's an energetic thing, we have to make sure we understand that whether we're connecting video or not, what is our energy? Are we connecting to two people in order to vomit my toxicity all over you, in order to, throw my wounds at you or project or have you heal me or save me? We have to be very careful that simply because we send an email, text somebody or message somebody, or even get on a video call, we have to be very careful. The way of connection is about who am I right here, right now? What is my energy? Am I offering to you presence, surrender, compassion, unconditional love, connection, integrity, all of the ways of oneness. Am I offering that to you right now? Or am I offering harmfulness? Am I offering judgment? Am I offering toxicity or gossip or whatever? We are always connected, even when we feel disconnected. But are we connecting through dysfunction, our shadow selves, our wounded selves, or are we connecting to people, places, and things, our jobs even, from the place of power, divinity, unconditional love, from oneness consciousness? Because we're always connected, but we're either connecting through dysfunction and ego and shadow self, or we're connecting in very healthy, powerful, positive ways that literally, when we connect that way, we can start to change humanity and the world simply by the way we connect.
I love that, Rachel.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful.
100%. Yeah, one of those things, sister, if any of our mob were out of imbalance within that tribe or that clan, it was quickly noted. And one of the things is that you had a support system, which I vaguely explained with the skin group, that would allow you to be able to, sit with your own thoughts, to be able to sit with your own emotions and feelings. In today's modern practices, they call it mindfulness. But, you would be taken away into certain areas in country or in nature, and you would get reconnected back to self. Now, that self that I'm talking about is the inner self. When the inner self is connected with, you start to know thyself. When you know thyself, you are the the healthy self. And that healthy self, my brothers and sisters, is your intuitive self. In our culture, we actually knew that as your ancient self. That's the one you need to connect back to.
Wow.
Exactly.
So how do we get there? We have a lot of GPS apps, right, on our phones, and we're always so quick to type in an address to find our way to that next destination. But if we feel disconnected from our own self, forget about everyone else, just our own self. How do we find that path? How do we find that route home?
You have to
There's the
first
$1 million question.
You have to first have that self-awareness that I am fill in the blank. So I feel disconnected. I feel lonely. Like, what are your emotions? Because when those are activated and running through you, that means you're running those emotional programs or those mental programs. That means something inside of me is getting my attention to heal me. The first thing you do is not look outside of yourself. Help, I need you to heal me. Help, help, help. And it doesn't mean we don't need people to heal us, help support us, and help guide us. That's a beautiful thing. However, I even require this in my corporation, the way I run my corporation with my employees. We walk our talk. And what that means is when I am triggered, when I'm activated in my wounding, I don't project that onto the other people I work with. I first stop. I drop into my heart. I connect. I grow my light. I am the way of connection to my divine self first and foremost, 100% of the time. And when I am that for me, I show up for me in self-love and self-empowerment. If I then I'm still struggling, or I can't quite see what's in my blind spot, or I can't quite get out of this pain or alchemize this pain or this grief or this whatever it is, that's when I reach out and ask for additional support. Why? Because I'm not actually coming from dysfunction when I ask for help or support at that moment. I'm coming from power because I'm already connected to my own divinity. I'm bringing power. Being powerful, being enlightened, being an elevated being doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It doesn't mean you don't struggle sometimes. It means while I am in pain, while I'm in struggle, while I have this negative emotion, I connect to my divine self, period, end. And then if I need more help on the human level, that's when I reach out to my friend, my loved one, my coach, my therapist, my whomever, because I'm coming from a place of divine power. Now I'm connecting to that person through divinity, through power, not through dysfunction and powerlessness.
What do you make of that, Josh,
Beautiful.
Richard? What are you hearing?
I was just thinking, God, it was bringing up so much. And I was just thinking too on like, how do I connect with self? And, you know, I was like, how would I answer this question? Because it's tough when you are out there floundering in the world like I was. If somebody said connect with self, I'd be like, cool. How do we do that? And it was through trial and error on my part. And there was a lot of areas of myself that I had rejected and stuffed and shamed. And there was a lot of areas that I felt I was broken. And I felt that I was unique in that. So I would hide and stuff it. And the last thing I wanted was the world to see any of this. And I was uniquely flawed, was my core belief. And so coming home to self for me looked like cracking that box open that I'd stuffed all this junk into and labeled, starting to look at it and go, these are all parts of me. I can't get rid of them as much as I wanted to for many, many, many years. And I learned to love them. And I learned to explore them and look at them again and examine them from all sides and go, wow, you were Cookie. You're fun, man. That's a cool little part. So I think for me at first was this sort of honoring of all parts was my first part of truly coming home to self. And then it was after that, it was then the learning to express my needs and set boundaries to protect that little me inside. I know we talk about it all the time. We sound like a broken record, but it's so important and critical for coming home to self. And then you begin to trust yourself again. And then that little child in you starts to feel safe, and it starts to show itself more and come out to play. And then more joy comes into your life. And then you can take this now and genuinely connect with other people from this place, just like Rachel was talking about. And that's where it's fun and joyful and pure. And there is no need or lack underneath that. It's just you being you in the world. And how beautiful is that? We are wonderfully unique beings, all of us. We all have something to share, and we've been hiding it. We've been hiding this piece. So our desire for connection is wonderful. And I think it's this gateway to get us out of ourselves and our boxes and our labels and the things that we've just clamped down on us and that we're hiding. And then one of the other, I've said it so many times, and I'm going to say it again because telling on ourselves is my favorite thing to do now to the world, is that your greatest fear is your biggest gift to the world. My greatest fear was talking about bipolar, alcoholism, all of the shame things. And as soon as I opened up and gave myself permission to be me and not perfect and flawed and a human being going through this life, bumping around and you know, not doing things right or perfect, and letting that out finally is a beautiful tool for acceptance, deep self-love and acceptance. And I think
magnificent.
So to put all that into a box, that's what coming home was for me. And then I could go out into the world free of needs and attachments. And yeah, that was
your biggest fear is your greatest gift. That is something. That is, I don't know if we can top that line. That was drop the mic moment.
You know, one of the acronyms that I love to share, fear, what it really means is forgetting everything's all right. Right?
Everything's gonna be all right.
There you go. Man. Sing it. You know, I just want to take a moment here. I just want to acknowledge, like, this is why this show works. This is why we show up every week, 138 weeks to do this show, because it really, I fall in love every week as though it's the first time I've met you all. And the greatest gift that that I get to witness is seeing how each one of us has evolved, how each one of us has gone through those dark nights of the soul while we're doing a show. Literally, we've had those epiphanies, we've had those breakthroughs, we've had those breakdowns. And the most beautiful gift is that we don't judge each other. We hold space for each other. And somehow, some way, not one of us has ever bailed and said, I can't do the show this week. I'm just not feeling it. No matter how we have felt, we have still shown up. And I believe that's because we know at the deepest level within our heart or soul space that this show brings healing, not only for our viewers, but we get something profound out of what we do here. And my God, Josh, just like Rachel, I don't know what you're feeling right now. You tap into energy really well, but the Josh that I met back in 2018, about 5 years ago, is when I launched the original Real Men, Real Talk Raw. It was a one-on-one interview format. It's not the same man that's sitting here, right now. And I'll tell you what, right? I mean, do you see it? Do you feel it? Do you hear it?
Big time. Big
Amazing.
time. You
So
know what the
whatever
noticeable
that
difference
juju is
is?
drinking. What's that, Josh?
Excuse me. The noticeable difference for me was the noise inside my head,
Hmm.
the self-talk, the pressure, that critic that I had to live with 24 hours a day. Every moment my eyes would wake up in the morning was instantly there, and I couldn't get that critic off my back. The most notable thing about coming home and connecting to self has been the peace, the stories that are gone now, the looping tapes, all of that. So if I had to pick one of the most beautiful, and then the relationships outside of myself have all just, I mean, I have this healthy network of really beautiful people in my life, including the four of you. And that is just incredible. Add so much peace. So thank you, Jay, for noticing.
Yeah, well, I'll say here right now, one more time. Welcome home, Josh Richard. Welcome home, brother.
Feels
I would like to
good.
switch gears. I'd like to switch gears as you are receiving that at that deeper heart and soul level. And I want to invite whoever wants to take a stab at this. What role do soul contracts play in our life? What is a soul contract? And what role does it play in our life? Who wants to take a stab at that one?
Oh, Rachel, you're
Kevin?
the best.
We have a tag team going. That's
I
okay.
just love listening to Rachel's wisdom. So,
Yeah, man.
So
I'll be here
our
soaking it in.
yeah. So our soul contracts, I mean, that's a real thing. And what does that mean? It's the simplest way to put it is my soul agreed with your soul together before we came here in human form to connect on the human level at some point in our lives for a particular reason. That's it. That's what that means. And for some people, it means we agree to connect in human form and find each other in human form in order to work out our karma, learn some lessons because we didn't do such a good job last lifetime. We kind of screwed the pooch on that one. We need to clean some shit up. We still got shit on our faces from what we did to each other last time. And sometimes that's what it means. And sometimes it means that when you've done the hard work and you've elevated and you've healed a lot and you've reached a certain level of your human evolution, your human consciousness at some point in your life, a soul connection is then what I refer to as your soul family members will start to come in more because you then connect in order to love and support each other for the rest of your lives or through then the next phase of your lives. It's very beautiful. So we have a soul contract together that we will meet in divine time, the right time, and it's unique to everybody in order to then uplift and share and celebrate each other or support each other or do business together, for example, or just be friends. But there's all different reasons why we connect. But those soul contracts, they are contracts that you cannot get out of. They are contracts that you will come in contact with that person and meet them, period, end. And it doesn't mean that it's always going to go well. That's the other thing. It's not always going to go well. Sometimes those soul contracts are, hey, let's live our lives and go at it again. Let's give it another try as a romantic relationships. Let's really do it this time. We're going to make it work. We're going to love each other this time. And even if your souls agreed to try to do that again in order to blossom this lifetime, it doesn't mean it always happens. You know, one person can not live up to what their soul contract says because they don't heal enough or they fall into old patterns. So no matter what, we are all connected. People come to your life for a reason, and just to honor the fact that you're here for a reason, even if that person is a jerk. They're there for a reason.
So let me ask you this then, Rachel. So if we identify, we have a knowing, let's say that we're in a soul contract with someone, and that someone is a jerk, what does that mean then? Do we accept them as a jerk? Are we committed to that relationship because we identify it as a soul contract? Or can we release them, cut the cords, cut the ties, detach?
I always say be careful with that, because what am I here to learn? Who am I here to become because of this situation, this person, this challenge, whatever in front of me? Who am I meant to become because this is here in front of me? And if I just cut by, look at that, I'm setting a boundary, look, I'm powerful. No, you're not necessarily. What am I meant to learn and who am I meant to become? Because if I don't learn that and I'm not becoming what I'm meant to become, a more elevated version of me, someone else is going to come along, take that place, and I'm going to see the same garbage all over again. So if I learn first, elevate to a higher level, and then I cut and I release, then I'm good. Then I'm more conscious.
I love that.
Then I'm doing what my soul wants me to do.
I love that. You know, in my healing journey, I have definitely come to an awareness that there's been some very specific people in my life that there was a soul contract. I didn't know what that was when I was in it, because I wasn't on that spiritual journey of healing to come home to return to love of self. But on the back end of elevating and doing the work for the past 7.5 years or more now, I am, not only do I accept that a particular relationship that spanned 3 decades or so was there for me to learn. And it was simple, not easy. It wasn't even simple. It just wasn't easy, period.
Yeah.
It was pain for both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah.
But where I'm at today is, for the first time in my life, I feel I'm at peace. I'm no longer angry. I'm no longer resentful. I have empathy. And I honor that soul contract that we had, showing up in a different way than I was able to show up, especially at the end of that. At the end, when it was, for me, it was I needed to cut the cords because I needed to save my own life.
Yes.
Because I knew I was at that moment, I was on limited time, if not. And so, but so I think, what do you make of that, Ev? What are you hearing right now?
Yeah, and what the sister's talking about there, like if you cut it down as well, like you think of the one big soul, the one big, literally at its depth means light, cutting itself into different pieces, coming down here to learn the lessons like she mentioned. If we do take on, and we don't take on some of those lessons, then they actually become karmic partners.
Yep.
So for every action comes a reaction. And what you're finding now in a lot of relationships is that you may find another energy or another person, but they've actually got the same energy that you weren't able to elevate and bring yourself to that level to be able to evolve as a soul.
You got it.
So then we've got to learn about these karmic partners, which then goes into twin flames.
Yep.
So we're only just starting to learn a lot of this knowledge. And I think if you can bring it down into the 3D and just take a look around at your current relationships, I would be very surprised if there was someone not within your circle that is one of your karmic partners that you need to currently become more evolved as a soul to be able to ascend into these higher frequencies of the fifth dimension.
Yes.
So down here on this 3D level, if you want to call that, soul to me is literally your will, your mind, and really that those emotions that we feel as a soul. See, this is where we get a little bit blurry, because then what is the difference between the soul and the spirit? Spirit is all. But to me, on the 3D level as well, when you bring it fixed into this body that we call a human being, that is our conscience, that is our intuition, and these are the values that we hold within our life. Now, when I knew that I had karmic partners around me, man, I just always go back to those values. My spirit holds those values deep within me. And so if those values aren't in alignment, that's when the boundaries go up, brothers and sisters. That's when you show that self-care and that self-love. And if you keep bringing in those particular energies that are those karmic partners, then that's on you. That's the magic of this experience. It's all free will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is tough to discern. It totally is. And sometimes it's really hard. And I think another way of looking at it, and you've probably heard people talk about this out there, relationships are a mirror. And yeah, it's uncomfortable to see some of our patterns and some of our things sometimes. And these people are put in our lives to mirror back to us what we're putting out. And there's discomfort there. Doesn't feel good to be like, oh, that's that part of me that I pushed down for 20 years and you're making me look at it. It sucks. And, but that's another way, Ever, you were talking about looking around at the relationships around us that are in our lives today. Who are your mirrors? And what do they have to teach us? And how can we elevate through that awareness of parts of ourselves that we might not be able to see from the inside? It takes that mirror.
It takes that
for
mirror
us to see it.
And also, may I add to that just quickly?
Yeah.
I usually challenge people not to fall on the teachings of, for example, the law of attraction. That's like a kindergarten level of spiritual teaching. It doesn't mean the law of attraction doesn't exist, but with what Josh was saying, this is a perfect example that we tend to keep ourselves small and spiritually immature by saying, well, how are you just attracting that in your life? Be careful, because instead of that, it's, what am I meant to learn from this because this is in my life? And if we look at it from a more mature way, where we take the way of responsibility, what am I meant to learn from this? That means I might have to learn, my soul might want me to learn how to connect in a healthy way, in a powerful way, versus in this dysfunctional codependent way, for example, versus in this abusive way. I might be meant to learn that to make sure I don't carry that forth. And it's going to take somebody coming into my life to be unfair or abusive or mean or whatever, in order for me to learn how to step into my power. It's not just about, but I just want to attract only good. That's nonsense. It's, why is this here? And who am I meant to become because this is here? Because you can always elevate higher and become more powerful. No matter what your experience is, you always can. You just have to realize you can, and you're being challenged to do that always.
Yep.
Have you mentioned twin flame? I want to put this out here, transition in this moment. What are the different types of connection types? There's a soulmate, there's a twin flame, and then there's a soul connection. Who wants to break down the difference between the three? Maybe some of our viewers may not know what a twin flame is, or the difference between a soul connection and a soul mate. Who wants to jump on this one?
Go for it, Jay.
Yeah, Jay.
Ev, take it.
Oh, look, it was just explained. It was just explained under everything we were talking about, basically. Like those soul connections, you're coming here as the one soul, that soul that's coming here to learn the evolution of the soul itself, as one big family, but you've just split into these separate identities into the third dimension in these bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With this twin flame on this twin flame level, from my understanding, you are really part of this lesson again. But for me, on the soul journey, I just want to get it right here because I don't want people to get confused. The soul connection is the lessons that you've been learning, but the twin flame, I don't know, you might want to help me here a little bit, sister.
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
Yeah.
So beautiful start. Soul connection. Everyone's connected through their soul, period. And whether they realize it or not, we all come from the same oneness consciousness. And that is just like Evis described. So that soul connect, everybody's connected that way, even though we live in separation as humans. But that's illusion. We create that. That's not real. The soul mate, every individual human has many soulmates, has multiple soulmates. It's not necessarily a romantic partner ever. It can be a romantic partner. It can be your spouse or somebody you end up with forever or whatever. But it also sometimes a soulmate is your dog because they're there to help support your journey. That's a soulmate. That's a soul companion dog is there to help support you in your human life experience. A friend, a business partnership can be soulmates having that business partnership, that friend. Why? Because you're here to bring a higher level of healing or consciousness or whatever. You have the same soul mission. So sometimes soulmates come together in order to create more light and healing on the planet, just as one example. A twin flame is rare. It's been completely overused. I invite people to throw that crap in the trash for the most part, because for the most part, it's been dramatized and created and made something that it's not. A twin flame for the most part is just, yes, it's a very highly connected at a spiritual level. We have our human self, our soul self, our spiritual self. That spiritual self does not have personality and human in it. And twin flames can be spiritual selves that are connected at a dimension that we can't comprehend here in human form with our human brains. But they do incarnate, and at some point, they connect in a lifetime. And often it is a romantic thing because the connection is so powerful, it almost cannot be a lack of romance there. So when you just realize it's just a more powerful divine connection, then you realize the sort of the capacity of what a twin flame means. And you also realize if you're unconscious or wounded, that's going to be one big nuclear bomb in your life. It's not necessarily happily ever after.
That's what I find. Like with the twin flame, that's why I stumble a little bit, because when we start to think of that twin flame in the relationship side of things, if you are actually coming from the ego side of things, with this 3D way of looking in relationships, and that's where it can get really entangled.
Yes.
Whereas, if we're coming from more of a soul level on a heart space, you start to understand that the soul and the spirit down in here experiencing itself is much more fluid, much more open, and doesn't have the need for these expectations within these relationships.
There you go.
So I think
There's
the twin flame, I think the twin flame, to me, you're your own twin flame, brothers and sisters.
Boom.
It's you you're looking for. You're your soul mate.
Yep.
This whole journey is about you.
There you
It's got
go.
nothing to do with anyone else.
There you
No
go.
one. You are looking at the reflection of yourself, and that is the journey of the walk back home.
Oh,
Oof.
Beautiful.
I think we're done. I mean,
I was going to say,
right, Josh?
That's a wrap.
What you shared is absolutely, in my humble opinion, it's spot on. It's the teachings that I share in the wilderness every single day, that I am gifted the opportunity to touch another person's life who's in pain or seeking answers or seeking clarity. And we're so busy trying to fill ourselves up outside of ourselves.
Yes.
Believe me, if there was a way I could have done it, I would have done it. I tried. I mean, even the physical relocations, 10 states, each state, at least 2 moves to different cities. You're talking at least 20 plus moves that I made in my young life. And it wasn't because I love to travel. It wasn't because I love to pack and unpack boxes. It was because I was trying to find my way home. And I thought it was outside of myself.
Right.
And I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's part of this journey, is that when we are willing to acknowledge that as part of our truth with a capital T, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Until we begin, until we hit some level of pain threshold that is no longer tolerable. It could be emotional, it could be mental. For me, it was physically. That was the final piece, was when I was literally hours from death in the hospital. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't run. I couldn't hide. I couldn't make enough income. I couldn't buy the next high-end car or the next designer men's suit and tie or polished shoes that was going to fill me up or make me feel any differently than how I felt within. And so this journey of connecting, before we can truly experience the true essence of a soul-to-soul connection outside of ourselves, I invite you, whomever you are, to have the courage to learn, to embrace learning how to reconnect at your own soul level with yourself. And that part of the self is that little beautiful boy or girl, that inner child that's been waiting your lifetime for you to come home, to have that experience. And then can we truly begin to embrace how to create and how to connect with people outside of ourselves on that deeper, profound level that we're talking about this evening.
That's it. Because when you connect to your soul self in that way, and you realize you're your own soulmate, truly, first and foremost, that's the power that heals your inner child and grows your inner child up. So you're no longer a child. We are adults, but we still live in our inner child, and we don't realize we need to grow that child up. We need to empower that child, but you can't do that when you are disconnected from your soul self, from your own divinity. Divinity, the true self, the true you deep inside, when you are connected, that is what empowers the inner child to expand, to elevate, to become powerful enough that it no longer needs to be a child. Remember, you are an adult. So we nurture and we love our inner child when he or she gets activated, but we also have to be powerful enough, connected to our divinity, the way of connection, to show that child you are not helpless, you are not weak, you are not powerless. You are a divine, powerful being, and it's time to grow up and become the powerful divinity that you are. You are infinite, and no child can do that on their own. That's why they're trapped as an inner child. But you, the adult, you connect to your true self, your own soul. That is your soulmate. And then from that space, that energy, you connect to your inner child. That's how you alchemize and heal your inner child. And from that space and that power, you then connect to other people and other beings. And that is how we together in oneness consciousness work collectively in the way of connection to help change humanity and change the world. That is it.
Beautiful.
Magic,
Beautiful,
sister.
Rachel. Oh my gosh. And
Who's not vibrating right now? Right? Right?
that's fantastic.
Wow.
An interesting thing. I'm going through currently going through a last level of connection to self, and it's I like to call it bulletproof. Because I realized this week that I'm untouchable. I'm showing up for myself in boundaries and stating needs and all of that, and that no wave can overtake me out there anymore, that I am powerful, and that I am also not living the lie anymore. That lie that I can't because of XYZ. I'll never because of XYZ. I mean, fill in the blanks. I did it for 30 years, made those excuses, and they're not true. You can do anything when you come home to self, and you meet the world from this powerful place and connected place with you and yourself, and you stand tall in your boundaries, in your strength. You know that you can go out into the world and no wave is tall enough out there to overtake you. So it's a beautiful place to be bulletproof. It's pretty damn amazing to be able to cruise out this door and go, I'll be okay no matter what happens. And I've got me. It's so cool. It's
Love
so
that.
cool. And these last levels are setting in literally just this week, and new huge realizations have been hitting me. This complete, I'll use that word, complete connection to self
Beautiful.
is insane.
Ev,
Wow, brother.
what do you
Beautiful,
think
man.
of this guy down there? Well, down there, whichever way he is, man. Like, has it not been just absolutely beautiful to witness as a conscious observer and just see the growth that's unfolded here? I mean,
Just the vulnerability and the openness is magic. It's pure magic in real time. Yeah.
It is.
speaking of time, I want to switch gears on us one more time. Wow, tonight is, it's kind of like sometimes you meet somebody. I meet a lot of people today, not just today, but like in my life, and we touch, we connect at that soul level. That's always my intention. When I go to work in a day, as I'm literally driving to meet a client, I'm in prayer. I set the intention, and the intention is for me to connect with them at the soul level, because that's where the healing takes place. And you ever have that moment where sometimes I'll give the client a hug 3 times in a row at the end. We don't want it to end. We don't want it to end. That moment is it's so precious. It's such a gift. It's such a blessing. That's how I feel right here, right now. I don't want tonight to end. I want it to keep going,
Yeah, brother.
I do want to switch gears, however, before I know I'm already getting teary-eyed right here.
It's a good show then.
But I want
we got Jay at the end.
Yeah, well, it usually happens, But what is the difference between attachment and divine connection in your relationship?
Attachment's based off the wounding.
Yep.
Full stop. Full stop. So, we talked about that inner child earlier. We're talking about him, with Brother Josh opening up. And until you've really been able to heal those wounds, you'll keep attaching yourself to people, places, and things that fulfill some of that wounding or those voids that you're trying to fill. And so those attachments simply based on that wounding.
Yep.
When we think of that divine level, on that soul connection that we're talking about, we're talking about reconnecting back to your heart space, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
We're talking about getting out of here. We're talking about your spiritual health.
Yeah.
We have this beautiful body to interact in this space we call physical reality, but it's really how you interpret it that really matters. So it really does come back down to, who is the driver in the seat? Who's driving? Who's at the wheel? Are you asleep at the wheel? Your body should be really the coffee kid in the hierarchy. It's simple as that. Your soul, middle management, but there's one operator that's really the CEO, and that's your spirit. So when that coffee kid, that inner child is healed, You won't need to attach yourself to any people, places, and things anymore. You become so much more fluid in nature. And that connection from that heart space is based on nothing but unconditional love. Love.
Beautiful.
I paused because I thought that was worthy of a pause, Ev.
Thanks, brother.
Agreed.
Good
Took a
call.
while to get there, man.
I want to hit you guys with one last question.
May I say one thing first? Is that okay? To
Really?
remember
Yeah.
that attachment is a prison of fear and suffering. You will
Say that
always
again.
be
One more time.
attachment equals a prison, a self prison of fear and suffering. Attachment, when we are attached, we are always in fear and suffering. We create suffering for ourselves and others. We are coming from a fear-based place. When you are not attached, when you are the way of connection to your higher soul, there is freedom. Emotional freedom, mental freedom, spiritual freedom comes when we are connected, the way of connection to our higher self, to our divinity, to our soul. When we are attached, we are in our lower selves, unhealed, wounded selves, and that is nothing but fear and suffering. We are in the prison of egoic illusion when we are attached. To break free from the prison of fear and suffering, we need the way of connection. I am the way of connection to my divinity, my higher self, my spiritual self. That is what sets a person free to then experience the rest of their lifetime with spiritual freedom, mental freedom, emotional freedom. We can experience that as humans, but we can't experience it if we are disconnected from our divinity.
Let me ask you this then, Rachel, and maybe this is the last question for this evening to honor the power hour here. What if, a lot of what we talk about has a lean into spirituality. What if you are an individual that has left your church, left your temple, has no relationship, let's say, with divine source or higher power, God? Is it possible to make progress, to come home without a relationship with spirit or God?
The first thing I'm going to say, I'm going to ask everybody listening to breathe. This is one of those moments that can be very triggering. You probably need to leave your church or your temple to be truly free. I know. Everybody's like, oh my God, burn her. She's the devil.
We just lost our contract with WNBC, New York.
So we have to be careful. Yeah, we have to be careful because religious dogma, that is a construct that has turned very dark. It is one that is completely filled with sexism and misogyny, the lack of equality, which is one of the universal ways of oneness. If you are actually in a religious construct that teaches you self-empowerment, not powerlessness, not weakness, not to look at some God outside of you. That's what most religions teach, that you are nothing but a weak, powerless child and you're not deserving of blah, blah, blah. That is not the church that I believe in, that I function from. So I don't go to regular church because of that reason. And I certainly don't go to ones that tell me because of the fact that I'm a female, I'm not worthy and I should be submissive to other people and they're more powerful than me. So we have to be careful when we say things like religious sectors or churches. We have to be very careful and be more specific because a lot of those institutions are actually unhealthy. They are dysfunctional and they are toxic. Are there ones that are of the way of truth, of the way of connection? Yes. How do you know? How do you discern among them? If they teach you that you yourself are a divine soul having a human experience, those are ones that you can probably trust and believe in, but they better be guiding you back to yourself. Source isn't outside of you. It is a part of who and what you are. You are an extension of that universe, whatever you want to call it. You are an extension of it. You're just manifested into a human form to have a human experience. You are still divinity. So if there's anything that teaches you, you are not that, you better run for the hills and not listen to what they have to teach you. That's not empowerment. That's powerlessness. And those are programs of control, and they're fear-based, and they're based on inequality. So
you just opened up a can of worms then, because you know what?
Have we got anyone in the chat? Is there anyone left in the chat?
Yeah. It takes courage to speak what you just spoke, Rachel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you know,
Rachel.
I'm going to go there, but because I want to ask you then, does that, what you just shared, what about the 12-step programs that say you're powerless over alcohol, that particular program?
I don't encourage anybody to use those programs ever. I teach the opposite,
Okay.
because you're not powerless. If you're powerless, you can never heal your addiction.
There you go.
You
Boom.
can never heal your addiction if you're
Don't
powerless.
get me
Never. You are
started.
trapped in your addiction.
There you go.
You are trapped in your addiction, and you will never get out of it.
Thank you.
If you are powerless.
Thank you.
No. You are a powerful divine being. Now, if you're showing up powerless, if you're showing up in weakness, those are just programs running, and you learn how to heal them because you can. It is a process. It takes work. You better be willing, and you better be devoted. But it is learning how to be devoted to yourself, not your small self, not your broken self, not your unhealed self, devoted to your divine self, so that you can be introduced, connected, the way of connection, to your divine self, so that divine self can start to grow in power. And when you can do that, it doesn't matter what you call God, universe, so it doesn't matter. None of it means anything. You think something that powerful in oneness consciousness is offended that you don't call it a certain name? Ridiculous. Your divinity shines. You heal your addictions when you realize you are a powerful divine being, and everybody has that inside of them. Not everybody shows up that way. But that is the difference in what I teach, for example, and what some people on this planet teach, versus you are powerless too. That's a load of garbage, and you will never heal if you believe you're powerless. Never.
I never did. I'm living proof of exactly what you just said, Rachel. All those years in 12 steps and being told I was powerless never got me out of that problem.
No.
It wasn't until I came home.
Beautiful.
Got it.
1000%. That was an
Well,
amazing, powerful close. And thank you for having the courage to go there, Rachel, and speak your truth, the truth.
Remember when you said your fear is your greatest gift? I spent years being afraid to speak the truth. And here I am now. You can have a hard time shutting me up.
Thank God for that.
Well, all I can
Beautiful.
say is I got chills, so I know this is truth. And that's the only time I get chills, unless, of course, I'm back in one of the states I lived in, Minnesota, or Flagstaff, actually. But there's, wow, we're a few minutes over. Rachel, I can't say enough. You are part of Real Men, Real Talk Live as a special guest co-host. We can call you whatever we want. You know, it's just a label. But we just absolutely, we adore you. We love you. We love you because you speak your truth. We love you because you share your wisdom that you've learned on your journey. You know, you weren't born this way. You had to go through some challenges, just like everyone in the studio tonight. We've all had to learn how to feel our pain. But what I've also learned is that when we reveal our pain, we can heal it. There's no time to hide from it anymore.
No.
There's no benefit to numbing out, checking out, escaping. It's sooner or later, it's going to show up at your doorstep.
Yeah.
And then we have a choice. We either live in pain or we feel the pain and we heal. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us on episode 138 this evening to light us up, get us hot, and bring us home. Rachel Fiori, we love you. You're always welcome back to join us on Real Men, Real Talk Live.